Yiridumarang, I'm Mary Atkinson, proud Wiradjuri Ngunnawal elder. I have been given permission by my elders with cultural authority to perform a welcome to country for you guys today. Every time a formal welcome to country is given, it continues a tradition that has always been a part of Aboriginal culture, except for a recent lapse of about 200 years. It was always given by way of permission of welcome when people visited from different areas and different tribal clans. When we talk about traditional country, we mean something beyond that dictionary definition of the word. For Aboriginal Australians, we might mean homeland or tribal or clan area, and we mean more than just a place on the map. For us, country is a word for all its values, places, resources, stories and cultural obligations associated with that area and its features. It describes the entirety of our ancestral domains. It is on this very land, a beautiful Wiradjuri country, that my ancestors cared, lived, learned and raised their families. I acknowledge and pay my respects to my elders, both past, present and future. And I also extend that respect to any other First Nations and peoples wherever you may be today, by Zoom or wherever you are. I invite you today to take this opportunity to remember and recall the 14th anniversary of the apology to Aboriginal Australians. We need to learn from these lessons. We need to know the histories that everybody needs to know about the true history of Australia. We are about truth-telling this year, and we need to all recognise and take note of what has happened to us in the past, so we can all move on to a better and brighter future for all Australians. I thank you today for listening to me, and I welcome you all here to wherever you are through this internet land and through beautiful Wiradjuri country where I am speaking to you today. I thank you for participating in this event and hope that you will find it in your hearts to remember there are still people out there that are looking and searching for their family and their connections to country. So we need to remember that, and we need to think of all those that have paved the way for us. So welcome, 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 and have a great anniversary of the 14th apology to the people of Australia, us Aboriginal people. And thank you very much. Mandangu.
Thank you, Auntie Mary Atkinson, for your welcome to country. On behalf of the City of Wagga, I acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, the Wiradjuri people, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and extend my respect to all First Nation peoples in Wagga. I recognise and respect their cultural heritage, beliefs and continuing connection with the land and the rivers. I also recognise the resilience, strength and pride of the Wiradjuri and First Nation community. On behalf of the City of Wagga, I extend a warm welcome to everyone watching. My name is Councillor Dallas Tout. As the Mayor of the City of Wagga, it is my honour to take part in the online commemoration of the 14th anniversary of the Australian Government's apology to the stolen generation. On behalf of the nation, the Prime Minister at the time, Kevin Rudd, apologised to the First Nations people for the forcible removal of their children, for causing profound trauma through the loss of family connections, their sense of belonging, their culture and identity. This trauma not only affected the removed children, but all their communities as well. We know this disconnection and loss cannot be made up for, but we can make sure that it never happens again, and we can also make sure that we never forget. The apology was a landmark in Australian history. The power of that moment, the words and sentiments are enduring. It is the reason we are remembering. The delivery of the apology has been an important step towards healing and reconciliation. Part of reconciliation is deep, ongoing commitment across the nation to ensure that the profound sorrow expressed on that day leads to an honest understanding and a brighter future. This can only occur when we acknowledge the true history of this country. The City of Wagga Wagga is wholeheartedly committed to our Wiradjuri and First Nations communities, and see key events such as the anniversary of the National Apology as integral to strengthening the bonds between the Wiradjuri and First Nations people and the wider community. It is only through respecting and supporting each other that we can better understand the loss of children torn away from their families, their culture and their communities, why we had to say sorry and why the journey towards healing continues now. By working together, we will be able to move forward as a strong and thriving community.
How did you feel when Kevin Rudd got up and gave the apology?
Oh, that was very emotional, really, really heart-wrenching,
Mm-hmm.
But felt really good that at last we were being acknowledged, not only as Darwin generation members, but of Aboriginal, the first people on this land. And I actually did the 2012 exhibition over at Cootamundra. I actually done the painting of Kevin Rudd, and I painted him flying above the homes, and I called him Ruddman to the rescue, because he came and he rescued us, I feel. And that's the painting of Kevin Rudd. I don't know, I hope it's not blurry, but he's got the Aboriginal flag,
Mm-hmm.
and he's got a pair of wire cutters in his hand. All my paintings for that exhibition was about 26 or 30, I think.
Yep.
I put the barbed wire fence around depicting the locking in and the locking up of us. And when he said sorry, I thought he's freed us, and he's acknowledged us. So I painted him flying over the homes at Cootamundra and cutting the barbed wire because it set us free from most of our traumas. Just that one moment that he said that, I just felt so good. I've still got his apology here as well, and Kevin signed all these. Yeah.
Since it's the 14th anniversary, do you feel there's been much progress made
No,
since then?
no,
No?
absolutely nothing, because they're taking double the amount of kids away, and they're putting them into care, but also into out of care homes, non-Aboriginal homes, non-Aboriginal families. So, they're still separating us from our family, our culture, our traditions. We've got to try and encourage Aboriginal people to get up and vote more. More votes will get, more support and more of what we protest for and what we want. When you grow up, as you're growing up in Cootamundra, they tell you, don't marry Aboriginal people because they're bad. Think white, think about the way you have to be. You've got to think like you're a white person. And they tell us to, act like you were taught to act in the homes.
Mm-hmm.
But they forget to look at the colour of our skin. How can we think white, be white, act white when we're Aboriginal people and we're not accepted by the wider white community? And it still happens today. If I go somewhere and then I start speaking, then the white people look and say, oh, she must be all right, she's had an education. We've been taught this culture for thousands of years, and right up till we were taken, our mothers taught us respect. Our mothers and our fathers taught us don't do the wrong thing. Do the right thing. Go and get a job. And I always remember that. So when I left the homes, I was still nursing. But I also worked with juvenile justice and DOCS, Department of Community Services. I was the boss of the Land Council down in Sydney, Big Land Council. So, all of these things that allowed me to further my development as an Aboriginal person first, but an Australian. And I still get shunned. I still get looked down on, even though sometimes I know that I'm better educated than a lot of non-Aboriginal people.
You're expected to navigate both worlds.
Yes.
The mainstream Australian world, yeah, and also the Aboriginal cultural and that kind of world.
Yeah.
And you're able to do it, but at the same time, it sort of makes you feel like you don't belong in either.
That's right. See, look at our cousins here, all the Bengalis, the Higginses and all that. I only know them by name, but I don't know them as my extended family. And that's because there's this barrier that the homes and the welfare's put up between us. Mm. Not just me, all the other Cooter girls too. And they've never gone home, back to their land, back to what they perceive, what they know is their culture. And it's the same as me, but when I came back home 20 years ago, all my elders that I was going to go and see and learn from, they've all died. So I've done not a lot of research, but I've done it especially because of Dad, and I'm so proud of my father and my mum too. That he went to war. He went to war because he was proud to serve the Australian, people. He went to war to protect them. He went to war to make sure that, that we were safe on this land. But when he came home and he had us children, they didn't care whether he was a soldier, they just took his kids away. And they took us away based on that we were too poor. But Mum and Dad were at work at the cannery when we were taken. They had to go up and get Mum from the cannery. And she come running down, and when she come up to the station, the police grabbed her. They wouldn't let her come and see her. But she was screaming out to Mr. Lambert, why are you taking those kids? And I mean, if you look at my report cards when I was at school, I was first in the class, I was in 5A.
Mm.
So our parents knew the benefit of having an education, and all of us kids had a fairly good education, And it started from the grassroots, where our mum and dad took us to school, and poor old little Nanny, she used to walk us down to the bus stop, or she'd walk us to school, So there was all that support mechanisms was there. And with the kids that I see now that have been taken, they've got extended family, Aboriginal people have got, kids have got a lot of aunties and uncles and nan and pop and extended aunties and that. Now, instead of taking them away, why don't they replace them within the community with their aunties and uncles or their elder sisters and brothers? Why keep taking them? They're still controlling us through the separation of our families, through the judicial system. It's terrible. Our kids are still dying in there. Look what's happening. He'll get off, that guy that's shot that young boy over in the West. We've got more women in custody now than what there ever was. Our children, it's doubled, nearly tripled the amount of kids in care at the moment. God bless you, Michael, and I really respect you because we work together on policies through the advisory committee, and I did the painting, and the apology from Michael Keats-Trotter, it says it all, but it doesn't go far enough. It hasn't been actioned. There was a lot of things that Kevin Rudd spoke were actioned. But Michael's resigned from that position now, I believe. So one wonders what's going to happen with, the things that they've promised Aboriginal people. Kevin Rudd's apology was a national apology because he was the minister. Michael Keats-Trotter is the secretary when he wrote that. So it hasn't got the things in it that should be in there in terms of cutting down on the removal of our children. And they don't even ask us, how can we do better? Nobody's asking, they're still taking the kids.